Thanks for tuning in to Proline TV for another Saturday of NASCAR coverage as we preview Sunday's race by taking a look at qualifying and practice today in Las Vegas, the Pennzoil 400. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. All of that is appreciated. We have just received our advertising quota here on YouTube, so we really appreciate anything you could do for us here to support us. Subscribing is always a great way. And by the way, you could also send us anything you like at all. 99 cents, $5, anything. All of those donations are definitely welcome because we're trying to do the very best we can to cover not only NASCAR, also Formula One and many other sports here on Proline TV. So anything you could help would be appreciated. Or just subscribe, like, and share. That is also something that we appreciate. Okay, let's get right to it. Now, the other day when we previewed our show, and don't forget, we have our race previews on Tuesday or Wednesdays with CJ Verduna of RotoWire. Kevin Rogers gives his previews on Friday. And then I come back here on Saturday. And when we talked about the Pennzoil 400 earlier this week, we made a couple of observations. One, as far as manufacturer, one was the fact that Chevy was clearly the car to beat. They have won 6 of the last 9 races here. The second observation was the fact that Toyota, regarding manufacturers, is not probably the way to go. No Toyota has won here at Las Vegas over the last 6 races, and only one has won in the last 10. So what, lo and behold, did we see today? Well, we saw fast Chevys and slow Toyotas. So right there, you have a little bit more proof about the way you should probably be tackling the race tomorrow. Also, we thought it was important to keep an eye, as usual, or most of the time, on positioning. There have been 9 winners in the last 10 that have started in the top 10. So we're going to take a look at that. And of course, also take a look at where that bar that that line we're going to draw a little bit later, a little bit further back from the top 10. Where's that mark, the realistic mark, that line? Well, this week we're going to put it at the top 14, the first 7 rows, because 15 of the last 16 winners here started in the top 7 rows, in the top 14, and that's how we're going to figure things out here. So let's go ahead, and first of all, let's start out with the top 10. Wow, look at that. Big surprise, Michael McDowell. See, now it's becoming, I said this last week with Carson Hocevar, reminding me of Michael McDowell and the way how good he qualifies. Michael McDowell's back. So now we have Michael McDowell on the pole, and good for him. He continues to prove that he could really do it in qualifying. Of course, the next step for Michael, who has won races before, is to be a little bit more consistent for the long haul. But the fact is Michael is the pole winner here, and he's in good position. He also had a top 10 practice run. Interesting to note that McDowell and Byron and Larson here, only 3 drivers, and that's a little low, and they're all Chevys. Only 3 of them had top 10 speeds in both qualifying and practice. Normally, the low number's 5 and sometimes 6, 7. Only 3, so it's a little bit more wide open. The other driver that was on the cusp, Kyle, 11th in practice. And then, I mean, Bowman was 14th in practice, but then Eric Jones was 15th. You also had some wild swings like Logano 20th, Cindric 21st, Berry 32nd, and Zane Smith 24th. So kind of all over the place. But there you go. Those are the top 10. Another thing, of course, that you see besides just one Toyota there being Eric Jones is that you have to go down here to Christopher Bell before you get another Toyota. So we only have one Toyota in the top 12. And in practice, let's go ahead and post up practice now since we're on this Toyota deal. If you look at it here, practice, there's only one Toyota in the top 7. There we go. And who's that? Christopher Bell again. And who was the top? That was Bubba Wallace. So, boy, that Christopher Bell kid. So there you go. Also in practice, only 2 of the top 12 overall being Bell and Wallace. The next one being Tyler Reddick. Okay, so things just not going really well so far. And again, like I said the other day, it's not a surprise for the Toyotas. As far as the opposite Chevy, They had the fastest car in both practice and qualifying. In practice, they had 4 of the top 5, including, again, the fastest driver. Let's go through some of these drivers themselves and take a look at the speeds and give us our opinion here. All right. So let's start at the top 10 here in qualifying. Matter of fact, let's draw that line. Let's draw that line right here at 14. Okay. So once again, as you said before, this is just the last, 8 years. So it's not like they have had 34 races. So there's a little history here. Not a lot, but a little. So it's not 100%, and it never is. But, the averages, that's what we do here. You've got 15 of 16 starting in the top 7 rows, which is why we're going to draw that line there. Now, out of this group here, out of these 14, Zane Smith is not going to win. And, I still doubt that, especially with Jones being a Toyota this week, even though he's qualified pretty well the last couple of weeks. And that's a good sign for Eric after the terrible year they've had. I would really have to say that those are the only 2 that I would eliminate out of the top 14. I think all these other drivers here in this top 14 has a chance, because if you look at it, even though, again, there's some wild swings here, the ones that have the best shot, I'm not going to put Michael McDowell in there. I've been down this road before with Michael, with him qualifying well, and even practice seems to be okay for Michael. But just double checking Michael's history here from our notes earlier this week. We just didn't see anything that leads us to believe that Michael is going to be a contender here this week. So I'd probably see, if you look at Kyle, okay, 4th and 11th, you have Bowman 6th and 14th, you have Byron 8th and 3rd, Larson 10th and 4th, Busher had a 10th and an 11th, Bell had 13th and 8th, and Reddick had 14th, 13th. So those are your main competitors this week. Okay. Now, out of that group, Logano and Cindric had, some wild swings, and they're driving a Ford. Now, Ford has been okay. They haven't been Chevy, but they haven't been bad as Toyota here recently. They've just been okay, especially Joey Logano. And that is why, since Logano is qualifying second, Joey Logano is going to be the one that you have got to keep an eye on. As we said on Wednesday, he has only 4 top 5s in his last 12 races at Las Vegas. But you know what? They were all wins. 4 wins here in his last 12, all being victories. Now, he won last year, but only led 6 laps. He also was on the pole last year and only led 2 laps. So for whatever reason, even though he has 2 poles in the last 4, and he came this close to 3 out of 5, he's only led 17 laps in the last 4 years here and 57 in his last 9, but he's had 2 wins over those last 9. So Ford, not as fast as Chevy, but Joey Logano is definitely the most dangerous one right there. Cindric, he's had some qualifying success here before, so I don't think this is a big surprise. You were getting 70-1. Now that number is going to probably be cut in half because of it, so hopefully you took advantage of it the other day. But Cindric has to still prove himself. I wouldn't really go after him at this point because, unless that number stays pretty decent. But he's not a bad long shot. And you know that, how we feel about him. He's not a bad long shot. And I still think you're going to probably get a pretty good number on him, because also, as we said about Cindric coming in here, this has been a good track for Austin Cindric in his career, Xfinity wise. He hasn't had a whole lot of success here in the Cup Series, of course, but he has been really good in the Xfinity Series. And he was actually pretty good in this race last year in the Cup Series. He had some issues, and that's the reason he faltered off. So if there were no issues this year, I expect the top 5 from Cindric, and top 10, top 5 may be good at the best. But if you don't get that, and I said that last week, if you don't get it, but he had the whole tire deal, the tire option deal. I'm not going to get too much into that. That I'm sure it came into play because things didn't go well for him at that point. But if he does not finish in the top 5 or top 10 this week, I think he probably has the problems that are still persisting. Okay, but Kyle Busch, being my top pick the other day, remains my top pick. And how can he be? He was 16-1 the other day. I just think it's a matter of time with Kyle. Matter of fact, both Kyle Busch and Austin and Alex Bowman are 2 drivers you want to be taken advantage of while their odds are still high. Busch was 16, Bowman was 25. Kyle's numbers are going to start to go lower and lower the more he just keeps putting top 10s out there, which he has been doing so far this year. And believe it or not, even though he's a Las Vegas guy, this has not been necessarily like his best track or anything close to it. He's had a lot of success here regarding production, 12 out of 27 top fives, but he only has one win. That's it. That was way back in 2009. He was third, though, starting in the top 10 in both races last year, third and 14th. So that's good. And he had a really good car in one of the races last year. Things didn't go well similarly to Austin Cindric, and he wasn't able to finish as well as he started last year. But I think this is a different Kyle Busch this year. I think the setup is different, and I don't expect them to have the issues they had last year. So I think Kyle's going to remain a good play. I don't think the odds are going to drop all that much. Maybe he should still be around 10-1 or 12-1. Bowman, I think his odds are going to stay pretty good. They'll probably drop just for the fact that people are catching on now to the fact that, hey, you know what, this Bowman kid ended the season strong. Who knows what would have happened if they didn't have that issue in the playoffs and then Joey Logano ended up advancing and then winning the championship. Well, Bowman has kind of picked off where he left off. And sooner or later, those odds are going to drop. So fingers crossed that we get Bowman before they do. Byron, this is CJ's top pick, and you got to really like Byron again. He is really, if you look at it, between practice and qualifying, he has the best combination of the two. Let's see. I'm just going to post up here some of the other practice speeds here as we go along here. But look, Byron is sitting there at third, and he has done just a really good job of setting himself up really all season long. And this week, it is much of the same. He started the week at 7-1. Those odds might actually drop. But overall, if you're just taking a look, combining the two runs, practice and qualifying, the fastest driver for both, and the most impressive, was probably William Byron. And again, most realistically, Larson would be right there, of course, as and McDowell. But for realistically, you got Byron and Larson. Those are the two that had the best runs, especially even though they were a little slower from practice to qualifying. Still, they're two of the only drivers who did both in both sessions, meaning top 10s. Okay, but look, both of them are considered favorites here. They were favorites the other day. It's not difficult to think about Kyle Larson as a favorite again this week. His odds were very low at 4-1. Now they're not going to move at all. I can't imagine they will. He's probably going to go off as the favorite now at this point. Don't sleep on Bell, of course, because this is about what he did last week. So don't sleep on Christopher Bell just because he didn't qualify in the top 10. He's definitely one to watch. It's just incredible. He needs to finish this season, if you had him, like I do, to win the championship the way he has started. Now, some of these other drivers outside the top 14, let's take a look at some of those. And again, it can happen. It's not 100%. Christopher Bell broke that trend a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. The ones to watch would definitely be Ross Chastain, and the long shot would be Noah Gragson. Bubba's also in there, of course, too. Because he had a very fast second place run in practice. Here we're looking at qualifying. Okay, so here's Chastain, 19th in qualifying. But when we take a look at how he did in practice, here he is all the way up to the fastest car. And the good thing about Chastain, and Ross was actually CJ's one of CJ's top three picks, and we like both. Matter of fact, he picked both Chastain and Suarez. So even though they're starting 19th and 23rd, if you look at Chastain, he has 6 top 12s in his last 6 here, 4 top 5s and a runner-up. He was solid in this race last year, and he never qualified. He has never qualified in the top 6 here. So qualifying has just not been a thing here, and yet he still has been strong here, and he has been solid over the last 3 races. So Ross Chastain, considering he was 22-1, and he'll be starting 19th, the fastest practice speed will definitely kick in some of the odds to drop, but not as impressively as it would have been had he been on the pole. And then Suarez, here's a guy that never really qualifies well here. 16th, 23rd, 24th, 36th. I'm just looking at the last 4 years, and in all 4 finishes, we're in the top 15, including 3rd last year from the 23rd position, leading 57 laps. By the way, 23rd position this year. So don't forget about Suarez. The odds are going to stay the same at 45-1. I can't imagine they're going to change much. So Chastain is still solid. So is Suarez. I don't think Wallace, even though he was 2nd fastest, he doesn't have much of a history here. So I'm not like, gung-ho there. But Gragson, he was someone that clearly I liked as a long shot option. Did not make Berry was my official long shot. And here's Berry doing a good job, 7th overall, even though his practice speed was really off. But Josh Berry is somebody right now that is all of a sudden starting to kick things into gear. And he's somebody that you should keep an eye on. In the Xfinity Series, he was really good at this racetrack. He has 2 wins, okay? And I believe 6 Xfinity Series starts. So he knows the track. He has success at the track, and he's starting to get it in the Cup Series. So I think he is still going to wind up a pretty decent long shot, even if he ends up at 50-1. Still not bad, considering you could have started off at 100. And Bowman was somebody that we liked. And again, he's got a win back in 2022. Last year, he finished 5th from the 3rd position. He ended up 18th in the other race, but that was from the 23rd position. So here he is, starting 6th. He's off to a good start. And I think he should also be a nice little play, as we mentioned before. As far as any of the long shots, not really into it. The only other one to really mention, of course, would be Ryan Blaney, because you probably saw that down here while we were moving this around. Blaney 28th here in practice, because things did not go well for Ryan Blaney in qualifying. Here you are. Problem is that Ryan had an issue in practice. Tire went down, and they were very fortunate though, because they did not and do not have to go to their backup car. They have a new rear bumper, a new diffuser. So they'll fix it, and they feel confident. Look, they're not going to win this race, so I wouldn't put any money on them. His odds are going to look, if his odds are like in the 30s, okay, why not, right? Because Blaney has had some decent success here. Not a lot, but decent enough. But if your odds aren't changing much, just forget it. I'm sure that, they're just going to look at this as a point steal. Maybe they'll try to get some stages and things of that nature. But another bad break for Ryan Blaney in his situation here, because I think he had a bad situation in Las Vegas last year. Hey, it all works out for Ryan Blaney in the end. I should know as a fan. Okay, now a few more things to go here before we wrap it up. Let me just take a look at some more of these practice speeds here that might stick out. Denny Hamlin, not good at all. 15th in qualifying, 29th in practice, so they're very disappointing. Briscoe doesn't look good. Keselowski continues to disappoint. Gibbs continues to disappoint. That's not changing, even though Gibbs made a great run during the race last week. We'll find out whether or not he could do it again until, of course, they had problems in the race. Elliott, I don't really look at Chase Elliott as somebody viable this week. 18-1 before the qualifying and for the weekend started. He's only led 1 lap in his last 6 races here. He has an average of 19.6, including 24.5 over his last 4 races. So it hasn't really been a good go of it for Chase Elliott at Las Vegas. So in general, taking a look at the way we're going to go here, once again, I'm sticking with Kyle Busch. I have no reason not to, as my top choice. Bowman also there, and Berry there. I've got 3 of my drivers in the top 7 in qualifying. So out of the 3 I picked, they're all in the top 7. I'm not changing. CJ's picks, I'm pretty sure he'd probably say the same thing with William Byron and Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez, because he knows it didn't matter where Suarez started this weekend. So keep an eye on Suarez as a long shot. We told you about a few of the others. And look, Reddick, we didn't talk much about him. but he's pretty much just in that number 14 and 13, like nothing overly impressive and nothing really exciting. Because remember, he was 6-1 a few days ago, and we were very surprised about that. Didn't think he deserved to be 6-1, and this is partly why. I mean, yes, he finished second in the race last year and did a really good job from the 18th position. So that's what tells you, who cares, right? That he's starting 14th. But, he's only had 13 laps led on this racetrack in his last 4. And he has just one top 5 out of 10 races at Las Vegas. I don't know what he's doing. I'm sorry, at 6-1. And by the way, it's a Toyota. So I don't get that at all. Okay. So look, Larson's going to be a heavy favorite. Bell's going to be a heavy favorite. So look for the bargains. I think Logano's still going to get a good number. We know what we like here with my picks, and we just went over the rest. Busch is also somebody to keep an eye on. It's very surprising that Buescher and Keselowski, Buescher keeps doing pretty well, even though Keselowski has been stumbling a bit. But Buescher was 45-1, and he's got 3 top 10s and a top 5 over his last 4 Cup races. 45-1. I tell you what, those numbers probably aren't going to really move much. So because of that, he's also somebody maybe to keep an eye on. Okay, so anyway, that's it. Let us know what's on your mind. If you have any picks, if you have any opinions out there, we welcome them all. Let us know what's on your mind. Let us know who you like, and we'll see how it goes. But it's looking right now like another Chevy potential victory here. So you want to take a look at those Chevys first and foremost, and to Toyota. But hey, this has been a crazy year. A lot of craziness is happening. The cars that look really strong on Saturday don't win on Sunday, and vice versa. So you never know. Could happen. And it's also been crazy because Christopher Bell just won't stop winning. But we'll see how it goes on Sunday for Las Vegas. Thanks again for tuning in here to Proline TV. Once again, we hope you'll subscribe, like, and share, and we'll see you real soon as we return on Wednesday, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday, I think Wednesday, to preview what we are expecting to be one of the best races of the season as they return to Homestead.